And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside ST off. Bring in ST off. It's orange!
45. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
You are taking a live look right now at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where SpaceX is set to launch another Falcon 9 flight, this one for the company Astranis, on what SpaceX is calling from one to many. I say what SpaceX is calling because there is a caveat to that, and we will absolutely be discussing that. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I will be your host for this evening's stream, and I appreciate seeing all of the 5x5s in chat, meaning you can hear me, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the people joining me tonight, including Alex. How's it going, Alex?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. It's quite amazing. We're seeing, this is the I've already lost the count. 130th Falcon launch of the year. I was actually kind of checking back that, the number that I had in mind was actually correct. 130th. And it's quite a lot. But yeah.
Just a few. And then out in the field, we have the A-team at the Cape. We have Julia out there for comms. How's it going, Julia?
Oh, Sawyer, it is going fabulous. There is a Falcon 9 in front of me, and behind me is a Geminids meteor shower. It's that clear of a night, y'all. It's really pretty.
Ooh.
But
Let me know
hi,
if you see
everyone.
any.
I just saw two right as we were going live, to be honest. So, yeah. Oh, and a gorgeous moonrise happening right now, too.
Make a wish. Also joining us from the field
I think I
is
will.
Max. How's it going, Max?
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, I do have to say, to echo a lot of what Julia has been saying, it is a remarkably clear night out here at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, and we have a tremendous view over here, looking over from Cape Side over to Slick 40 tonight. So, fingers crossed that we can follow through and bring you guys some great shots of liftoff.
Oh, we are looking forward to that. Liftoff scheduled for about 55 minutes from right now. So the Astranis mission, as you see again, SpaceX and us referring to it as from one to many, which, of course, started off with one small launch for Astranis as a demo aboard an Indian vehicle. Their next launch was aboard a Falcon Heavy, and this one getting its own Falcon 9. Alex, can you tell us a little bit about the mission?
Yeah, so today we're going to have 4 satellites from Astranis launching on Falcon 9. So this is a very different mission from what you see, for example, going to geostationary transfer orbit lately, or other, kind of big satellites going into these high orbits, in which, these are small satellites. So these are smaller than, say, for example, a Starlink satellite or something like that. They are about 400 kilograms each. They are about 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter. Essentially, it's like this instead of CubeSat, right? It's more like a boxsat, if you will, right? They call it MicroGEO to be more precise. That's the name of the satellite bus that these satellites are built on. So it's this kind of, again, 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter satellite, very small, not very big, but it's very versatile. The whole thing of, when you have the big satellites, right, that you see going into a geostationary transfer orbit, those are normally covering like an entire continent or something like that. And so you have to have a big antenna with multiple beams and everything, and transponders and all those shenanigans. These are more localized. So, for example, on their first more proper launch, because they had a demo launch, but last year they had the launch of the Arcturus satellite, and that one was going to be covering Alaska, for example, which is it's still big, right? But it's a smaller region than perhaps what you see from other bigger satellites, where they cover an entire continent, like or like half of one and half of the other, or something like that, right? This are more about smaller connectivity, on smaller regions, and it's this kind of thing, high throughput kind of satellite. We may be going into what each satellite is about, but they are all based on that same concept of this small satellite, very localized connectivity in multiple different frequencies depending on what needs the satellite needs to cover. And so that is sort of the type of satellite, the type of payload. There are 4 of them launching on Falcon 9 because, again, each of them are only 400 kilograms each. So that's just 1,600 kilograms into a geostationary transfer orbit. However, the sort of difference, so to speak, is we believe that Falcon 9 will be putting it a little bit more closer on the second burn when they do the second burn of the upper stage of the MVAC engine. When that happens, we think that they're going to do is like getting it much closer to geostationary orbit than other satellites that we've seen in the past. But this is sort of the whole sales pitch, I guess, of Astranis. As I said, they already had launch on a Falcon Heavy as a rideshare, essentially, and they're using this one as their more operational launch, so to speak, of these satellites. And these are going into geostationary transfer orbit. We're going to have the launch to the straight east out of the Cape, and going to be landing on a chauffeur of Gravitas with the booster, quite old booster, by the way.
So you're talking while muted?
I believe he's having a little bit of problem there. But Max, I think you had something to say about the booster in question.
Well, a little bit. I also am a little bit biased because on the docket over at Slick 40 tonight is booster B1077. So for no 1077 is my current favorite Falcon 9 booster in the fleet for very personal reasons. And so we are very excited. We are very excited to be up close and personal with it tonight over on Cape Side. And as we have talked about before, this will be the 17th flight of B1077 if all goes according to plan. And with it being a 17 flight booster, hopefully soon, it has a pretty impressive pedigree behind it, starting with the likes of Crew 5, GPS 3, SV06, Inmarsat I6F2, CRS 28, NG 20, TD7, and 9 previous Starlink missions. So it's not quite a senior booster yet. I think that would cross the line at 20 flights. But it's getting up there. So, in following after stage separation, the first stage will land on the drone ship, a shortfall of Gravitas, which is stationed out in the Atlantic Ocean. And helping out in fairing recovery is the vessel Bob. So, we have quite a lot on display tonight, and Falcon 9 is looking very pretty, I have to say, although the booster, in this case being 17-flight booster, looks pretty well done. But from this perspective, we should be picking up on some pre-fueling operations occurring, hopefully, in the coming minutes. And, of course, that go, no-go poll from the SpaceX launch director does occur at T-minus 38, which is coming up very, very soon.
Hopefully I'm back now. Sorry, I had
there you go.
internet problems there. The whole internet shut down on me. Had to restart everything, but we're back.
Yay! and one thing I wanted to bring up, because he talked about the fairing recovery. Bob has actually not come back from its duties from the previous mission, and so it's doing double duty, I guess. It was on the O3B Empower mission earlier this week, and so it's now also doing these satellite launch as well, which is interesting.
Which means it will come back to Port Canaveral with a load of not 2, but 4 fairings, which means it'll have a full deck, which is always a sight to see.
Yep.
And what's also a sight to see, Julia, you were pointing this out, that this one has all the soot and craziness on it, but a booster just came back into port today after its first flight. It's got to look so much different.
It's a very different experience and one we do not often see here on the Space Coast. An almost all-white booster in Port Canaveral, slight shades of gray.
Oh, looks like we're having some
The
problems
internet
from the
loves us
field.
tonight.
Yeah, right?
Back.
Yep, Julia,
Seems
we'll
like-
come back to you
yeah.
on that in a second.
And
Still,
it came in prior to that also.
There is a view of Port Canaveral right now from our fleet cam, by the way. You can kind of see, again, a little
All right.
hazy out there, but you can see the booster is there in port. Now, I don't know if we discussed this while I was offline, but do we have an idea of the trajectory for this one, Alex?
yeah, this one is gonna go straight east out of the Cape. For these GTO missions, I keep proposing that we make a video sort of like, because we've made a video about watching a launch, right? But then it's like, what if you are somewhere else and you just want to see this launch? For example, if you were in Miami or something like that, or maybe in the Bahamas or on the north end of the Bahamas, right? Well, if you knew at least more or less what the whole deal is about of the mission, like you've heard it's some GTO comsat or something, then if you already knew that, you will know that it's going straight east, because those GTO missions want to go at a lower inclination, as low as they can to get, into that geo belt around the equator. And so one of the things that they do is just they launch straight east, because that gets you the lowest orbital inclination that you can out of Florida, and that also happens to be true for every other launch site. Like if you're in China or something and you want to launch to GTO, you launch straight east and then you change your orbit once you get over the equator. So that's what we see here today. It's going to be another one to the east. And if you want to launch to another orbital inclination, of course you now have to decide whether north or south. Again, I think we should probably do something about that. Some kind of general rules of rocket launch trajectories.
Cool. Let Kevin Michael Reed know when the script is done.
2026.
There you go. Yeah, the list of videos to be made is quite a long one, but if you have any suggestions for videos, you can always send them to us. We're open to them, because it's your comments that actually help us improve our content.
I'm going to link something here. I'm working on 4 videos right now. So, yeah. Plus, Starbase Update, because I'm also writing that one for this week. So,
and we also just had This Week in Spaceflight come out today, too. So there was twists as well.
I also wrote twists. Part of it, Marty also did a bunch of the stuff as well.
Here's a question I saw from chat. Alex, do you ever sleep?
I do. Lately, I've been messing my sleep schedule so much. I should probably get it back, something workable at least. But yeah, I do.
I'll believe it when I see it. Let's see here. Here's one from Blue Creeper. Max, I'll throw this one to you. They're asking, can the moonrise or moonset cause a jellyfish, or is it just the sun?
It is mostly the sun. I would probably have to say it's down to probably a factor of 95-5 with the sun, simply because the light coming off the moon, depending on what phase it's in, is minimal compared to what you get with the sun. Although we do notice a little bit of a brightness difference in the exhaust from the stage, or from Falcon 9's upper stage, when a full moon is either rising or is already in the air well above our heads. So It is noticeable, but it's not drastically so. I mean, it is, but really to notice the difference between a moon jelly and I guess the quote real jelly, you have to have seen your fair share of Falcon 9 or just launches in general to really pick up on how each flight looks in terms of color, shade, brightness, etc. So it is mostly down to the sun.
Yeah, I mean, all of them you get the fantastic plume expansion. If the moon is just right, it makes it a little brighter, whereas for the jellyfish is where you get the stunning colors and the shadows, and that's where you get the beautiful noctilescent clouds. Oh, but yeah. So tonight, potentially some impact from the moon, but not expecting a full jellyfish.
Correct.
Speaking of videos that we still haven't written yet, Alex, here's a question from Keith. Will the second stage re-enter or go to a graveyard orbit?
Yeah, that's one of the 4 videos that I'm writing about. It is gonna go. I hate to call it graveyard orbit because usually when normally in the industry you talk about a graveyard orbit, you talk about it being as something where you put on purpose the satellite or the spacecraft or whatever you're referring to, right? In this case, it's more like a wandering orbit, I guess. It drops off the satellite, it passivates itself, like it vents everything and drains the batteries, and it just stays there, right? Wandering and just like if you had like a boat in the middle of the ocean, it would just be bobbing around and just staying there and sort of being moved around by the currents. So in this case, it will be very similar, where it's it's just there. It's not being moved to a very specific orbit, right? Where it's going to be eventually for like centuries and centuries, like a proper graveyard orbit, which is what I think of when somebody refers to of a graveyard orbit. In this case, though, it will not stay there for centuries, thankfully, because even though it's not going to be re-entering controlled, it's not going to be a controlled re-entry. Since the perigee, the lowest point in the orbit, it's close to the atmosphere, it's going to have some atmospheric drag, and so eventually it'll come back. It will take a few years, though, and it will not be controlled, but at least it will not stay there forever.
And what also won't stay there forever? This rocket, as we approach the T-minus 40-minute mark. Hey, I'm proud of my transitions, okay?
Just jinx it.
I was just gonna say, did Sawyer just jinx us again?
I didn't say the word this time. I did not say the word this time.
We should actually write a rule book as to what classifies as a jinx.
One thing that we can classify is the timeline. At this point, as we hit the T-minus 40-minute mark, we should be approaching the point where they are polling whether they are no-go for launch, and we should hopefully get the go, or for fueling, excuse me, and we should get the go for fueling at T-minus 38 minutes. If that's the case, starting at T-minus 35 minutes, they will begin loading the RP-1, Rocket Propellant 1, and LOX liquid oxygen into the first stage. The second stage will begin just loading the RP-1, and then they will take a break at T-minus 20 minutes and 20 seconds, where we get to celebrate the best vent, and continue fueling with the liquid oxygen at T-minus 16 minutes. So all of that, hopefully, despite what I said, still to come. I do want to take a quick second here and thank some people. Gort from Ort, thank you for becoming a Capcom member. Reminder, Capcom and above, you get access to the NSF Discord. Make sure you hang out. You get pre and post Flame Trench access there too. A lot of cool stuff. Kevin Odom, thank you for becoming a Padrat member. And Echo Deal, when the moon hits your plume and it makes the light bloom. That's
Copyright strike.
People used to pay me to sing, I'm just saying.
I will say though that was actually very clever. That was very well done.
Yes, Echo Deal, very clever. What I think is also pretty clever is the evolution of these Astranis satellites, because they've now flown. This will be the third different rocket that they've flown on. They had the demonstration small CubeSat, Demosat 2, that originally launched on PSLV, which is one of India's rockets, the XL variant, and its most recent flight prior to this one was on a quite unusual rocket, Alex.
Yeah, right. For today, we're gonna have that Falcon 9, but Astranis' first launch was actually on Viasat, on the Falcon Heavy rocket. That was actually a fully expendable Falcon Heavy. And one of the things that happened is that Astranis, they went as a ride share on that one, because there was one of these big satellites that I just talked about that goes to GTO. In this case, they actually went almost all the way to GEO, to geostationary orbit. And because, it's the big boy, it's the big Falcon Heavy. It can carry these big satellites to that, all the way far out. But, one of the things is these satellites are small. So what they can do is, because you're carrying a big a big satellite, they could in theory just ride share with these bigger satellites, because adding an extra 400 kilograms or so, it's not that big of a deal. Today's mission, of course, it's a dedicated Falcon 9, but in theory that's a thing that they could do, and that's what they did for that first more proper kind of satellite that they launched. Along with Viasat, there was another third payload as well along the ride, but they were the secondary payload on that mission. And one of the things is that we noticed they actually watch our coverage when that happened. Or at least they were watching Space Coast Live, because we noticed on some of the pictures after the launch that they posted on their headquarters, they were watching us from there. So, if they are watching again, thanks for watching and everything. But yeah, it's quite exciting to see that some of these companies, they follow our coverage as well. So thank you.
Which, yes, I believe we have Josh Ingersoll, who is their senior regulatory manager, in chat as well, who pointed out, got to keep up the streak, no duplicate rockets. I like it.
Yeah, that's the picture. You can see on the big screen they have Space Coast Live, and I think the other one is our dedicated. You can notice because it has the red ticker at the bottom. So yeah, that was from that launch on Falcon Heavy.
Well, it is very much appreciated. Thank you for tuning in to everyone. And at this point, hopefully, they will be preparing to fuel up the rocket, if all is go, in just about a minute from now. And Max, I mean, you can hear
Yeah.
the pad from there, right?
I was just gonna say, Julie and I just heard a very powerful vent come from the direction of Slike 40. Whoa, Alex, go ahead. What's that?
I think I may know what you've heard.
What's
when
that?
they prepare for propellant load, they call out at T-minus 37 minutes. Tanks are venting for the start of propellant load. So they vent the rocket tanks and then they start the propellant load. So if you heard a big vent, you know what could mean?
A very big vent.
Yeah, so that might be, they're preparing for that propellant load at T-minus 35 minutes.
And I have to say, things like that, so normally when we're at either the press site or even the ITL Causeway over here, still Cape Side, we normally cannot hear anything that happens at the pad in terms of venting, hissing, popping, any of that sort. And the air is remarkably still tonight. There is a little bit of a breeze, but otherwise it is very clear and very still. And the audio from those vents carried all the way over 2 miles over to where we're watching from. So that is a strong indicator or a strong element of foreshadowing as to how the launch audio might sound tonight if they get that far. And I am super excited to find out.
Oh, I can't wait. And of course, we will now keep an eye as best as we can for frost forming on the rocket. Of course, it's a little tricky with the strong back being directly in front of the view, but we have our ability to enhance, so we shall see. As we approach the launch, again, this is the From One to Many Astranis Block 2 launch aboard SpaceX Falcon 9, launching at midnight Eastern, which I know, Cape Team, we've all been out there for these late night launches, although late night Starlinks do be hitting different, these do too, I gotta say. But as we near the end of the year here, Julia, it seems like there's a lot more of these later launches. Do you think there's a reason for that?
I do think there's a reason for that, Sawyer. So here in Florida, we have a big mouse in Orlando. And that particular area of theme parks happens to attract a lot of people around the holidays. So does Port Canaveral. For instance, we had 6 cruise ships today. So what I'm thinking is our late night hit a little different launches are due to the FAA and the airlines perhaps asking for a little bit of leniency with all of the flight traffic and possibly holding off our launches until evening when there's a little less traffic going to and from, especially between Atlanta and Orlando. A little bit less disruptive, more friendly to, shall we say, the folks in our neighborhood.
Yeah, there is a large flight path that goes right around the area. Both the flights that continue down to West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and as mentioned, the ones who want to go to the House of the Mouse. So it tends to be quite busy this time of year. Anyone that has been to Florida anytime around December or spring break or anything like that will understand how many people end up showing up. So I'll leave it at that. Now, Alex, I gotta point something out here, and you and I were discussing this. You pointed this out the other day in the back channel, and I gotta bring it up. As we mentioned, this is the from one to many mission per SpaceX, Astranis Block 2, but Space Launch Delta 45 also calls it MicroGEO. What does the FAA call it while we're speaking of them?
AMP or something like that. By the way, I have another thing to talk about. We can see frost. So indeed, that huge vent that Julia and Max heard was them preparing the Falcon 9 for propellant load. So there you go. We have confirmation propellant load is underway.
Beautiful. So what's with the names?
Yeah, right. We've had a lot of fun lately with mission names because in one place you see it one way, in another place you see it another way, and so it's this whole thing of different multiple names being used. And so at the end of the day, we even have internal discussions of how do we call our live stream? How do we refer to this mission and things like that, right? Even the ticker, or you can see there on the top left as well, we put from one to many. We could have used Astranis Block 2, because that's also like the type of mission that they're calling it, or they were calling it at one point. In the case of the FAA, I think it's being called Astranis AMP or something like that. And yeah, the SLD 45 weather forecast, they put MicroGEO, which is just the name of the satellite bus. It's like, yeah, MicroGEO, but whenever they launch again on Falcon 9, hopefully, then what's gonna be that, right? A whole different thing. The whole part of the from one to many and all of that. The first mission on Falcon Heavy that was called First of Many because it was their first proper satellite. Because they had that CubeSat, right? But that was like a demo kind of thing. The Falcon Heavy was the proper satellite that they launched there. So it was called First of Many. So this one is called From One to Many. And I had the joke in the back channel that maybe the next one is going to be Many of Many. Because it was a bit of a joke there of how it's like First of Many, From One to Many. But yeah, that's one of the things we prefer to use From One to Many, because it kind of follows the whole thing of the first one being first of many. But yeah,
I just had to bring that up because we have seen multiple names. One name that I do have to apologize for mispronouncing is Astranis. For Josh in the chat, it's Astranis, not Astranis.
Okay. See,
I think EJ might call it Astranis, being from Boston, but that's about it.
Too many. Yeah. Oh, by the way, that's the logo, which it's a rarity as well these days on Falcon 9 missions, where we see the customer logo on the. I say that in the previous Falcon 9 mission was also with a logo on the fairing. But they're still rare. The funny thing is, I don't know if even Carson can do this, but if you can zoom in on that picture, you can see the serial number of that fairing. It's 155. That's a very old fairing half. And by the way, it keeps our whole thing of even numbers are for the passive half of the fairing, and odd numbers are for the active half, which is the one with the logo. And so, yeah, 155, just to put it in perspective, they recently flew as a new fairing half 215. So yeah, that's how a lot of fairing halves ago. Yeah, there you can see it a little bit better. 155 there on the fairing. This is a new thing that they've been able to, that they've started to do recently. They had these numbers in the interior and during their processing and everything and all of that, but now they have put more visible numbers, which allows us to be able to track now, to start tracking fairings. Can you imagine us starting to track fairings after 3 or 4 years of them reusing fairings? And we have never been able to do that. But now we are kind of able, I say, because it's, yeah. Anyways.
The spreadsheets
I'm
are
just
endless.
saying thank you. Yeah, thank you, because now we know where to look on the fairings when they come back.
Yep. And we do the same for the boosters, right, Julie? Like we look for the booster number when we're not sure, especially when they're new, right? Because sometimes it might be 90, might be 91, like the recent one from O3B. But yeah, so that's one of the things that we can now do with the fairings as well.
And while you're talking about that, Alex, if you could just clarify, Damien was also asking, what do you mean by passive and active?
Yeah, the active is the one that has the pushers for the separation system, and the passive is the one that it just lets itself being pushed. Let's put it that way. It has all the connecting mechanisms for those pins to push against and be released during flight. Just one other thing as well. The passive half, I believe, is the one that is closest to the stromback, and the active half is the other one with a logo.
There you go.
And to add to that, Alex, active equals more expensive. So
True,
that's the
'cause it
one you
has all
don't
of the-
want to lose at sea.
Yeah, that's the one with all of the separation mechanisms. Another thing is the passive half. It makes sense to be on the T side because you don't have all of the separation mechanism stuff, because it needs pressurization systems and whatnot. Instead, you can have the little quick disconnect for the stromback to connect and provide air conditioning and all of the power stuff for the satellite and whatnot. That's another perk of doing it that way.
Exactly. And by the way, being told the first one from that Viasat launch, Arcturus, apparently still in orbit kicking.
It is. It had a little bit of an issue, so it's active, but a little bit. This mission is gonna carry the utility sat, they call it. It was a satellite that they built sort of as a backup, because of course when you do something new, you try to have something as a backup, and this satellite was built as such for that mission. And so they're launching it on this mission, and that'll be able to cover what the other cannot do. It's not that it's completely unusable; it's still usable. It's just not as much as as what they wanted originally. But hey, they have a backup. They're launching it. That's the one that's going to be essentially giving connectivity to Alaska. That was sort of their original goal with that one. But yeah, it's one of many.
It is
one
worth
of the
noting,
4 satellites.
There is, yes, the 4 satellites. There's the utility sat that you just mentioned. There's also New View Alpha and New View Bravo, which is for Anuvu, which is for maritime and aviation connectivity. And then we also have, I believe SpaceX calls it Agila on their website.
Yeah.
And yeah, that one is to provide internet service to Peru.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, this is one of the things as well that hang on. for Peru. I think that's the one that they moved
Or was that the one
away.
that was moved and this one was...
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I had to look it up because apparently originally they had they had in the plans to launch Andesat 1 for the Andes, this mountain range in Peru and Chile, and they changed that for another one for the Philippines, for Orbits Corp, and that one, I think that's this one.
That is this one. Yes, you're correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see. As we take a look at the pad right now, you could see on the left there that crew access arm still retracted. Obviously, no crew on this mission. But Max, 98 Central wants to know, is the crew access arm sealed off when it's not in use?
From the outside, at least from where the crew would ingress Dragon, I would imagine that is sealed whenever there is not a spacecraft attached to it, unless they have to perform any kind of maintenance on the seal or any mechanisms around there. But I'm sure the arm itself is accessed or can be accessed at any point by the SpaceX teams over on the tower whenever they need to. And it helps being fully retracted into the current position that it is now to avoid all of the ruckus and drama and just sheer power coming from Falcon 9 when it does not need to endure that. Because, of course, as you said, Sawyer, and as we have talked about, there is no crew flying on Falcon 9 tonight.
And this is quite a busy launch pad, too. I mean, it's the busiest launch pad in the world. And Julia, you had the number. How many launches now have there been from the Cape this year? And KSC?
From Cape and KSC this year, this will be launch number 91, which is absolutely crazy. The 45th has been, waiting for that day where they're constantly busy, and they had prepared to be able to launch 2 rockets in the same day, and we have reached that point in Cape history, which is absolutely amazing. Because if we're hitting 91 plus this year, that means next year's going to be at least 100, which is pretty darn cool, y'all.
Yeah, there's a counter launches this year near the visitor complex. I cannot wait till that is a 3-digit number. Right now, it's 2 digits still. They're going to have to update it for next year. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Busy time next year, but we are also coming up here on a busy time in the count. Just about 30 seconds from now. While the rocket may be frosty, it's about to get a little extra venti, shall we say. And no, we're not talking about the Starbucks drink. We are coming up on the T-minus 20-minute, 20-second vent, which is a good indication once we get to that the RP-1 load on the second stage should be wrapping up. And what are we seeing now with the vent that is just starting, Alex?
Yeah, that is the liquid oxygen chill down vent. They are preparing for that liquid oxygen load in about 4 minutes from now. The second stage has already wrapped up that RP1, that kerosene load on that second stage, and so they are preparing that line that goes to the second stage for liquid oxygen to, again, it's gonna carry that liquid oxygen to the second stage, which means it's gonna be a lot of cold fluids, flowing through that line. And so you want to get that nice and chill for propellant load, for that liquid oxygen load.
And that liquid oxygen
Did
load.
y'all notice?
Oh,
how
the way
this-
it's hanging?
Yeah, I was going to say, you can have a good indicator of the weather here at Cape by how the T-minus 20-minute vent falls. And I would say it's a beautiful night for a launch.
I agree. And for those just joining, this launch is, as you see in the top of your screen, it is called From One to Many. It is launching aboard a Falcon 9 rocket. As we zoom in on that vent here at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. This mission for Astranis, it will be carrying 4 satellites into geostationary transfer orbit. And for those that are hoping to be able to see it, if they're along the East Coast, what trajectory should they be looking for, Max?
So, because it is launching on a geostationary transfer orbit, it is launching directly eastward. So, whether you are looking from the north, either be Daytona or New Smyrna or Jacksonville, or south being Cocoa Beach, Satellite Beach, even all the way down to Fort Lauderdale, your views tonight should all be relatively identical, albeit the rocket is either going from to your left or to your right if you're north or south. It is, I tell you what, if the weather across the state of Florida is anything like how it is tonight, being remarkably clear, the view should be spectacular for a number of people, even those on the other side of the state in the Tampa Clearwater area, assuming their weather is also clear. You cannot really ask for better conditions for a launch, especially at night.
Oh yeah, it seems like Julia, the weather is been go up to this point, right?
Yep. There have been no weather concerns voiced on the board tonight, so woohoo.
I think I think the forecast from the 45th Weather Squadron was also the chance of violation was less than 5%, which is about as good as a forecast gets. I mean, I think I can only recall seeing that forecast maybe 2 or 3 times in the many launches that we have seen here. So it's literally about as good as it gets here.
Yeah,
I
it
think
says
I've
no
seen
concerns.
0. I was gonna say I think I've seen 0 once, but otherwise that's greater than 95% go.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting there, Alex.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Which, by the way, while I have you, Alex,
Mm-hmm.
as we try and see the booster through the fog and smoke and stuff, which booster
It's gonna
is
stop in a
this?
minute, so it's okay.
Is this a reminder for those who are just joining? What booster is this?
Yeah, this is booster B1077. It's actually quite old. It's been around since Crew 5. That was its first mission. There you can see all of the missions: GPS 3, SVO6, Inmarsat 6 Flight 2, Starlink 510, CRS 28, Galaxy 37, Starlink 613, Starlink 625, Starlink 633, NG20, Starlink 643. 651, 63, 10.4, 8.11, and most recently Optus X TD7. It's the other name as well for that one. That was the other one with a funny name lately. Multiple different names. But there you can see that vent has stopped, just like I foretold, because liquid oxygen load is now underway on the second stage.
There you go, folks. If you want your future told, reach out to Alex. See into the future.
I don't know if I can be that that good.
I gotta say though, this booster is pretty cool, especially because Max happened to catch it going by the VAV while he was at the press site ahead of this launch, and I just love the contrast there of the soot on the booster and then just the interstage.
And there you can see that booster number, as we're talking about. The fairings also have now a number, and the boosters do have a number. They've been having those numbers for a long while.
Yep, and now you know where to look for them. If you ever see a booster, or if you make it down to Port Canaveral and you go, well, what booster number is that? And you don't have Space Coast Live open, which, why don't you? It's awesome. It's 24/7 coverage of the Space Coast. Now you know where to look for the booster number. So there again, you can see that interstage portion where the second stage attaches to it there. I do want to thank a couple people here. While admittedly it did look like it was Halloween with all of the venting there, Astro Knucklehead still wishing me, apparently, happy holidays, which, thank you. Happy holidays to you, too. And as you can see, SpaceX lighting up the pad just for the holidays. Totally not because they have to for FAA regulations and warnings for airplanes flying by. It's only because of the holidays, right, Alex?
Yeah. All of the lights, all of the different blinking things.
And someone did point out that this is one of the rare views that we have where you can see all 4 towers actually blinking. The
I was going to
angles are
say,
just right.
Jinx, I was just going to point that out, that holy cow, I can actually see that 4th tower blinking from where I am.
But you
4th
can
tower.
see, so from this perspective, you can only see 3 of them blinking. All 4 blink, it's just that the other one blinks like away from this point of view. But if you switch to the other one, I don't know if we can do that. There you go. If you see the one sort of, you see two on the right, two on the left, right? The left one on the right, of the two on the right, the one on the left, essentially, you see blinking, but it's a very small blink, and it's because it's somewhat looking towards the camera, right? But it's also like to the side, and so that's the same effect that happens from the press side view. But yeah.
And NASA's space flight in chat is asking, why 4 towers?
Why
Julia?
4 towers? Oh boy, NASA spaceflight. Well, you know what? We have a lot of lightning here in Florida. I'm just going to answer that question because I can. We do have a lot of lightning here in Florida, and one thing you do not want is lightning to hit your rocket. So we have these towers that actually have lines to, shall we say, soak up any lightning strikes and ground them. And that's what your 4 towers are for, NASA spaceflight.
Screaming that he has a name. You're right. Sorry, NASA Spaceflight Official.
Oh, gotcha. That's a mouthful.
I do want to point out, it's so hidden on the shop, but it's still one of my all-time favorite shirts, and I still need to get it. We do have a 4 Towers t-shirt at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. It comes with a pun on it. I absolutely love it, and I don't know why I haven't ordered it yet. I need to do that. Let's see. Jim Cavett gifting a Red Team membership. Flippers79, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. And in response, Astro Knucklehead saying, Merry Christmas, Flip. Also, Astro Knucklehead wishing Max and Julia a Merry Christmas. I already got Alex on the flame trench, and does Alex sleep?
Thank you very much.
And then Shadow Gunner, thank you for literally burning the midnight oil to bring us this launch. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to all of you at NSF. Well, thank you. And Ken Schaefer with a $50 super chat. Also coming in.
Wow.
Happy holidays to the NSF team and all of their followers of space history goodness. More like goodness gracious, thank you. That support means a lot to us. It's how we're able to do what we do. That's why we can be able to have people out right now at Starbase for Booster 15 potentially moving. Why we can have 24/7 live cameras at KSC, at Starbase, at McGregor, and why we can have all of these people roll out for launches, like you said, at midnight here. So thank you so much. And if you can't support monetarily, you can always hit the like button, and here on YouTube, subscribing is free. That also helps let people know, hey, you might like this stuff. Coming up now in about 10 and a half minutes until the hopeful launch night of the Astranis mission. And let me see here. I had a question and I just totally lost it. There we go. Here's the one from Hugh Mann. While we were talking about McGregor, just real quick, pointing out that it looked like they converted a Falcon Heavy sidecore to a regular Falcon. Wondering why would they do that?
Well, just bringing another booster to the fleet, right? If they just keep it as a Falcon Heavy side booster, then it's sort of wasted capability, if you will, right? Oh wait, he means the one at McGregor. Yeah, it doesn't have a Falcon 9 logo. I noticed, and it also only has one SpaceX logo, which means it's a Falcon Heavy side booster. I have no idea. It might be replacing 186, for example. It might be doing a Falcon Heavy mission. We don't know. There's a bunch of, in 2025, there might be 3 or 4 Falcon Heavy flights that we really don't know much about. And mostly because they are government missions. They are DoD. Yeah.
And we have at least 3 or 4 more missions from the Cape, including the one that is set to launch, hopefully, in about 9 minutes from now. We also have 4 satellites that are flying on today's mission. Just a quick recap, Alex, for people just joining. What is flying on this flight?
Yeah, so today we are going to see 4 Astranis, there you go, satellites on this Falcon 9 rocket. These are smaller satellites than what you see going into a geosynchronous transfer orbit. They are 400 kilogram satellites, very small, but it doesn't mean that they are any less capable. They are just, more localized in their connectivity capabilities, usually smaller regions like, the Caribbean, the Philippines, just to mention some of these. Of these satellites, each 2 of the satellites are going to be covering a very similar area. The other 2 are very different from that. So each of these satellites are going to cover different areas and have different purposes, but they are all based on the MicroGEO satellite bus that Astranis built for this whole satellite platform that is very versatile and everything. It's a very neat concept that, instead of a big satellite, you just build many more that are smaller, that are more concentrated, more versatile, more affordable to launch as well. So that's what we're going to see today. Geosynchronous transfer orbit, straight east, and hopefully in 25 seconds we'll have that engine chill on the Merlin engines on the first stage.
Yes, that engine chill, preparing them for the massive amounts of heat and power that they will see going through those 9 Merlin 1D engines at the base of the rocket. And in terms of the ignition process, you might say they go from one to many.
Wow.
Boo.
One last
Boo.
question for you guys out in the field. Conundrum asking, any chance of sonic booms tonight? I'm south of the launch site by 40 minutes on the coast. Max, you want to take that?
Unfortunately not. The sonic booms are heard whenever the first stage booster comes back to LZ1 and or LZ2, depending on if it is a Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy. But those sonic booms will be heard out in the ocean, out by a shortfall of gravitas, way out in the Atlantic. But unfortunately, here at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and the surrounding areas, there will not be any sonic booms tonight. But if you are close enough, and maybe even that far, you might get a little bit of a rumble. So you never know.
You never know. Well, we'll let you guys enjoy the actual rumble of the launch, and Max and Julia, we will catch up with you after liftoff.
Thank you very much, everybody, and we will catch y'all on the other side.
And now we continue to tick down closer to the launch of Astranis from one to many mission. Again, as we hit the 6-minute mark, Falcon 9 launching from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, Space Launch Complex 40. This Falcon 9 will launch these 4 satellites to geostationary transfer orbit, with the booster set to then come back and land on a drone ship downrange known as a shortfall of gravitas. And even those 2 fairing halves, the things protecting the satellites at the top of the rocket, those are expected to come back down, be recovered, and flown again.
Yeah. In fact, the one that I mentioned before that was old, now we know it is flying for a 22nd time. So it's going to be at least the second that we know fairing half that is flying for a 22nd flight, which is, it's bonkers that they're flying so many times, not just the boosters, but also the fairings, and be able to save so much money and be able to launch more often as well, because they don't have to make them from scratch.
Yes. So the fairings piece is flying for a 22nd time, and this booster has flown how many times?
17. The other fairing half is the 12th time. So because there's 2 halves, one is for the 22nd time, the other is 12th time, and the booster, as you were saying, that is the 17th time today. So yeah, lots of launches in between these 3 pieces of hardware.
Another piece of hardware that's pretty obvious on your screen is the giant metallic structure. That is the strongback. That you see all of the smoke and stuff coming off it. That is completely normal. That is because all the propellants that are loaded in there are super cooled at this point, and the warm Florida air, well, warm relative, will cause that to happen. But we will see that strongback begin to retract just a little bit, a whopping 1.8 degrees. Why is that?
Yeah, that is to clear the way for the rocket. one of the things that the Stromback has is at the top there's these clamp arms, right, that help raise the rocket and not just raise it but also transport it to the pad. But obviously, if you're preparing for a launch, you want those clamp arms to open. So they open, the Stromback retracts a bit, it gets in that launch ready position, and when it's time to lift off, that Stromback pulls away from the rocket, and so the rocket just lifts off and gets clear the whole way. One other thing as well, this is going to be the 224th launch from this launch pad, so it's very much rocket proven, if you will.
Yes, and that Strongback provides not only the fueling lines, it also provides electrical power, it provides data cables, it also even provides environmental systems, aka kind of air conditioning, for the payloads that are on board. Which, again, a reminder, there are 4 of these spacecraft on board heading to geostationary transfer orbit on this launch set to head due east. Now, we should be coming up on some milestones in terms of fueling, right, Alex?
Yeah, so I've seen a bunch of people in the comments, might be new. Hello, everybody, and welcome here. And they were asking about this sort of, this smoke around the rocket. That is completely normal. There's liquid oxygen on both the first and second stages. It uses that to burn the RP-1, the kerosene that these engines use. And so it's very cold. It's at very cryogenic temperatures, very, very cold. And so what you're seeing is just condensation. So precisely that liquid oxygen is now already fully loaded on the first stage. We're just seconds away from that liquid oxygen to be loaded on the second stage. The kerosene has been loaded on both stages already. Again, the first stage is completely loaded with both liquid oxygen and kerosene. The second stage, kerosene wrapped up that load at T-minus 20 minutes, as we were mentioning before. So now we're just seconds away from stage 2 LUX load complete.
There you go.
We'll see that with that vent coming back from the Stromback for that purging of those lines before liftoff.
Yes, very similar to the one that we see at the 20-second vent, and you see it right there on your screen, purging any of that extra liquid oxygen, because basically you got gaseous oxygen there, potentially in the line with giant flames going by it, and oxygen and flames don't mix well together.
Yep.
Come up on 90 seconds now. We should be coming up on 2 major milestones that happen at T-minus 1 minute, and that will be the tanks pressurizing to their flight levels, and also quite important is Falcon 9 entering startup. That is the point at which the onboard computers will take control of the majority of the count and continue to monitor everything all the way up to and then through liftoff here. So now we will hopefully get that confirmation as we pass T-minus 1 minute that Falcon 9 is in startup.
And it is in startup.
Now the next thing we need at approximately T-minus 45 seconds is the launch director to say that they are go for launch. And I'm sure, Alex, you'll let us know as soon as we hear that.
They are go for launch, yeah. There you go.
All right, there we go. We are now about 30 seconds away. I promise we will stop talking after it lifts off, so you'll be able to hear the audio. It will be on a slight delay, because it does take time to reach our camera, which is about 2 miles away from the launch pad tonight. Coming up on 20 seconds. The engine ignition process starts at T-minus 3 seconds. There may be a
for the
green
water
flash,
as well?
say. Yes, it will start with the water deluge, which should be happening any second now. That will be followed by the ignition of those 9 Merlin 1D engines. There we go. We see the water. We have ignition. And cutoff. We've had an abort, it appears.
A rare engine ignition abort.
We are going to stand by for just a moment here and make sure that we get all of the information that we can to you from SpaceX. But as of right now, Falcon 9 still on the pad. It appears to be safe at this moment, but engine ignition, it looked like occurred, and we did not see a liftoff of Falcon 9. One thing that we can say for certain is that this will scrub the attempt for tonight with certainty, as once they begin fueling, SpaceX obviously will not be able to recycle with how cold the fuels are. And also, anytime you have an abort with engine ignition, they're going to take an extra close look at the vehicle and at the engines.
And one of the things, again, reiterating here, we don't know what happened on this abort.
So we just
But
heard a call out
oftentimes
for an
in the-
abort, and we are standing by to get more updates from the team.
And that is the SpaceX audio feed, as we also try and listen in to see if we can learn anything more from them about this abort just before liftoff.
Yeah, and there's been very little times where there's engine ignition, there's an abort, and then they try again. Most of the times, it's some sensor, but they obviously will like to look at it carefully. They don't take chances, right? And it's a very rare thing to see them try again. Today's window does run for another 2 hours, but I'm not positive that they will really run that chance.
Especially because, as we typically say, once fueling begins, there's pretty much no going back. And if you get to engine ignition, that is a significant part where there's a good chance they're going to take a look at the rocket. But at this point, yeah, Falcon 9 still at the pad after that attempt. And then we continue to listen in, see if we can hear anything that gives us more information on what exactly happened and why they called that abort right near launch. But at this point, it seems like, Alex, at least the vehicle is safe. It's still in one piece on the pad, at least.
Prior to this point, the launch was going smoothly. The team saw no issues as we loaded propellants, all system tests and checkouts looked good, and everything was go for an on-time launch. At this time, it's too early to speculate on a potential root cause, and I'm hearing from our teams we likely won't have more insight in the next few minutes, so at this point, we are going to end the webcast and allow our teams to focus on troubleshooting. It'll take some time to figure out exactly what happened, but keep an eye on our website and our social accounts, and we'll share information as it becomes available. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, we appreciate your interest in SpaceX and your ongoing support.
And we will, of course, do the same on our social media accounts. So you can also follow at NASA Spaceflight on X. We're also on Facebook, NASA Spaceflight _IG on Instagram. All of those will be able to give you updates for everything. But yeah, that appears to be an abort. And I think this is the perfect time for the saying. It's better to be on the ground wishing you were in the air than in the air wishing you were on the ground.
Yeah. The only other time that I remember such a thing happening and them being able to launch again was actually with Starship. Back in the Hobbs era, they found that when an engine ignition, the engines just there was some sensor that was thinking that the engine was running at a higher throttle and things like that, and so they were like, you know what, let's retry again. And so they detanked, they loaded the rocket again, and then they went for the launch. So yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
But you jinx it.
How did I jinx it?
Remember earlier in the stream?
No, I'm gonna say I don't remember.
It was you.
While we have them really quickly, I know Max and Julia, you're gonna have to start packing up here, but what were you guys able to see and or hear right around that time?
Well, Sawyer, what I could see was a
I believe Julia's going robot on us, unfortunately.
Ignited. What I heard was kind of a thud. Oh, can you hear me now, Sawyer?
Now we gotcha.
That's better, yeah.
All right. Well, Sawyer, you know what? What we saw was a boom that gave the impression the bird was kind of a thud, which would probably have been the abort and event. So, like she said on SpaceX's stream, this is probably one where I personally wouldn't expect a 24-hour turnaround. They'll probably have to inspect the vehicle or ground systems, but I would be happy to see her go tomorrow night, just so that we can keep this cadence up, but it goes when it goes. And I also blame this on Sawyer.
Hey, this is not
There
my
you go.
fault, people. I didn't say the S word this time, okay? Can't blame me for that. I can blame Carson, who's producing the stream tonight. He tends to scrub a bunch of them. So, Carson, we'll blame you. Max, Julia, I know you need to head out. So, thank you both for your field comms and for getting all the equipment out there for us tonight.
Hey, it is a pleasure as always, everybody. Sorry that the rocket did not get airborne for y'all, and we did not see a bunch of fire and the rocket streaking towards the sky. But that is just how the game goes sometimes, and that is just the business that we are in. But regardless, we will be here when it does end up going, and hopefully that is sooner rather than later.
Exactly. And we look forward to your commentary again once that happens. For now, head on home safe. And there is now a poll. Reason for scrub: technical, rocket, or Sawyer? No. Where's Carson on this list? Come on, Karki, as Jack likes to call him. Come on, help me out here. Well, there are some people that have been helping us out here with their support. Matt Hicks saying happy holidays, thanks for the coverage, appreciate it. Shadow Gunner, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Screen name, great screen name. Thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Snot Garden, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. And someone named D Wise, I believe, or DeWeiss.
Who's that?
I don't know who they are. Apparently, they're gallivanting off in California with DOS or something, but saying, well, next time, post-ignition aborts are so rare. Indeed they are. Someone saying, well, with great power comes great responsibility. Yes, there is responsibility in that. We will be careful next time, but don't go blaming me. I was going to thank Carson for producing the stream and pushing the buttons and pulling the levers through all of this, but I don't know if I should anymore. All right, I will, because it's the holidays. Carson, thank you very much for operating the stream tonight. And let's see if there's a potential we can get replays of the abort, see if we can see anything. We shall see in just a second if that's a thing or not. Alex, though, also thank you for joining tonight for all of this. This is a unique situation, right?
Yeah, it's rare. It doesn't happen very often. I believe it's been about 6 months since the last time something like this happened. Which, it seems like it was very, not that long. Like 6 months. What's 6 months? Nothing, right? But in terms of Falcon 9, that's what 50 launches, right? So yeah, that was a long time ago in Falcon 9 launch terms.
Exactly. I believe that's only the second one this year. So could have been
Yeah.
worse. Alex, I know we need to try and let you get some semblance of sleep, but thank you for rolling out and chatting with me tonight about the mission.
Yeah, I need to also go and write Starbase update as well for Monday. So, yeah.
Yeah. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I have been your host for this evening's stream. Let's take one quick look here at the replay with some sound. Potentially. Let's see, this was right around when the Rainbirds should be starting. So we'll keep an eye on the base of the rocket there. Soon. Almost.
At some point.
Okay, that's 90 seconds at that point then, I believe. Oh no, this is a different vent.
That is closer, I think. There's the Rainbirds, I think.
Here we go. All right. Let's listen in. There's the Rainbirds.
We have the audio?
I know we heard Max saying, "Oh no," but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, when they do try again, NASA Spaceflight NSF will be here to help cover it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight, and we will see you for the next stream.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roger, planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight comes ST off. Say again, ST off. Off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
What is it?
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?